Hi, I am Siri.
I'm Jason.
We're Local Roots Farm, outside of Seattle, about half an hour outside of Seattle in the Snoqualmie Valley on the traditional tribal lands of the Tulalip and Snoqualmie tribes. We are located in the Snoqualmie River floodplain, and we grow about 15 acres of produce for sale to restaurants, and we have a large CSA, and we have a little honor system farm stand. And of our 15 acres, we actually grow like a disproportionate amount of radicchio because we love it so much. And so this year, I think like an acre and a half of our 15 acres is radicchio.
Why?
I don't know, but we're going to look at some of it.
Who's going to buy it? I don't know.
And we've been farming for 15 years, and we've been growing radicchio since day one because we're obsessed with it. And Jason's going to talk about some of the varieties and spacings and stuff.
Yeah. So what we are standing next to is this is our second to last seed date of the year. So these would be varieties that we would intend to be harvesting in like December, January, February. We've got Rosalba here, which is the like Rosa del Veneto pink guy. And we've got some Rosa di Gorizia, which are a really wonderful forcing variety that we learned a bunch about when we went to Italy this past fall with Lane and Cassie and a bunch of other farmers. The radicchio expedition, which I think you're going to be learning about on our Chicory TV today. So what's really neat, so we, over the years, have experimented with all sorts of different seed dates and varieties, and we're sort of like honing in on some that work for us in our particular climate and our latitude and region and soil type and all of that. And so what we really like about these is that they are super cold tolerant, so it can snow and it can freeze. And in fact, even if they get flooded, because these are a forcing variety that we harvest root and all and bring inside to regrow, we feel more or less comfortable selling them after they've been flooded because the part that people are eating didn't exist at the time when it was flooded.
It's fresh and new growth and delicious.
New growth.
And what is the expected harvest window for the Rosa di Gorizia?
Yeah, so we'll be picking these probably starting in February. What normally will happen is it'll get cold and the leaves will die back. And then at some point, like around February 1st, like something changes and the plants in the field start putting on a little bit of new growth. I think the like lengthening days signal something to the plants. And at that point, we will start digging them and bringing the roots inside. And I think that maybe people have been learning about this from other CRIB farms that they visited. But then all of that solar energy that the plants stored all summer long, the photosynthesis is being stored in the roots, and then you bring them inside, you warm them up again, and they say, it's spring, let's grow some more. And so they grow new leaves. And when you do it in the dark and you do it in these relatively simple and like amazingly old-fashioned way, you get something that is just so beautiful. It looks like a rose. It truly does look like a red rose. And so this is a variety that we only started growing a couple of years ago, and we're super excited about it.
And I was going to say, our goal with the varieties that we choose is to really have as long of a season to offer radicchio as possible. So we found some really great varieties from Italian companies that mature very early. So we'll start selling radicchio as early as maybe mid to late July. And in a year where we get lucky with weather, with flooding, with freezing, we can have radicchio available all the way through to about, late March through forcing. We're in a kind of a uniquely challenging place to farm, although it is beautiful, and we like to think of it as the Veneto of North America with our extra cold and extra warm, because we're, unlike a lot of other valleys in Western Washington, we are set inland from the water. So our temperature are a bit more extreme. But we're always kind of looking for creative and different ways to manage supply. So that could be storage varieties, which we've been doing a lot of work with the last few years. And now we're getting more into the exploring the mysterious world of forcing, but all with the objective of like, no matter what the winter brings us, we'll have radicchio for the people.
Yeah.
Are we going to go in here?
Yeah, I think we should. So what's cool maybe not so cool. We are in a floodplain, and a month from now or less, we could be underwater, and we might be rowing a boat above these fields. And so one of the many things that we do is, we're always sort of have an eye to that. And so we grow some varieties that are really good for storing.
Not this one.
Not this one. This is just a boring old non-storage Chioggia variety. This is
Get in there.
I think it's 40, 50. You want to harvest it?
No, you do it.
Because this is actually one of our lower fields, we put some of our less good storing varieties. Yeah, that's nice.
That's
though.
a fatty.
Yeah. That is 40-50 from TNT, which is a really, really nice, like, summer to like late fall, but not good keeper Chioggia variety.
Here, I'll hold that, and you can go do the let's look at the
Yeah.
Tribito. So like Jason was saying, this is a field where we are growing kind of a weird mix of stuff that we actually do want to overwinter. It's hard to perceive, but there's higher ground over there. This is a little bit lower, so we'll be picking out all of this in the next, I don't know,
3 weeks.
Yeah.
Yep. And then so it's always so fun. I think one of the things about radicchio that I really like is it's got this really big taproot that goes deep in the soil. I think it mines a lot of minerals and nutrients that would go below the root systems of a lot of plants. And then when you harvest it, you peel away a lot of leaves. And so you leave a pretty good amount of organic matter here, and all of this foliage and everything has the minerals and nutrients that the root system brought up from fairly low. So we always think of radicchio as kind of like a good nutrient cycling crop. Like, obviously we're taking out a lot of biomass and nutrients, but we're also leaving a ton of stuff for whatever we grow in this field next year to use. Which I feel like one of the things that I think is so cool about chicories is that we barely fertilize. They're such a low input crop, and I think they leave the field in a better condition.
There's controversy about.
Oh, I know. Some people do. Some people like to give them a lot of fertilizer.
But also another thing we're learning about, which is why chicory is so fun and amazing and never boring, is that certain varieties are bred for a higher input system, and some varieties are bred for lower input systems. So it's just like wrinkle after wrinkle of things to consider.
Yep.
When you're growing this magical crop. Do you want to go look at the Costa Rosa?
Oh yeah, sure.
Yeah, that one's beautiful.
Yeah, it's a new variety for us. We grew it for the first time last year. That is a one which is basically it's like a Rosa di Verona type, where somebody here, would you hold this?
Yeah.
I guess saw this red rib. So as you'll notice, most radicchio have the rib on the leaf is white, and this one has this beautiful. Costa Rosa actually means red.
Oh, look at that!
So beautiful.
Dang. Nice find. Yeah. There's a lot of genetic variability in this variety.
Yeah, because it's new.
Yeah, but wow, that looks fake.
It's stunning, isn't it?
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk a little more, Jason, about the expedition and the varieties and the breeders? Do we have anything to showcase?
Well, this is one. I'm pretty sure this is from Levantia, which is a plant breeder that we met when we went to the Veneto this past January. And this is one of their 3 new varieties that we're trying. 2 of them are the Rosa del Veneto types. They're pink. And this one is just so awesome and unusual. It was really neat. We went to the Veneto and we met all of these amazing plant breeders, Italian radicchio lovers who are just on the same amazing mission and path that we're on. And it's a wonderful thing to share.
Yeah. So thanks for touring our crib, and please enjoy radicchio on a daily basis. We love you. Boop.
Welcome, I'm Gianna and this is my husband Matthew, and we are the owners of the Crows Farm. This is our crib inside of the farm incubator Viva Farms crib. We've been leasing land here for the last 6 seasons, and this is our radicchio field.
Yeah, welcome. So our 6th season, we at Viva, we met at a restaurant in Vermont where we worked on a garden together for the restaurant. So the main focus of the restaurant was Italian food and Italian heirloom vegetables, and our relationship started pretty much hand weeding beets and tomatoes and chard and parsley, and we grew a lot of different kinds of Italian vegetables in Vermont for this restaurant. And one of the harder vegetables for us to grow in the Northeast was radicchio. The owner slash chef of the restaurant loved radicchio, but it was a challenge in the Northeast for us to get it right. So we spent a couple of years trying to grow radicchio and fennel, but it quite didn't do too well for us. So with big ambition, we moved to the West Coast, to the Northwest, and decided to start a little herb farm with that model being what we would expand upon. So essentially we took a little 1/4 acre restaurant farm model, and the first year we did 1 acre farm, and now we're up to 8 acres. So we grow a lot of different herbs, and we grow a lot of summer lettuces for salad mix and tomatoes. And then for fall production, we really like to focus on some things that are a little bit hardier, but can last well into the season. I think moving into the Northwest from the Northeast, we saw it as a really good advantage to take advantage of the longer growing season that we don't necessarily get in the Northeast. So radicchio and chicories is a great vegetable choice for us to prolong our season, and every single year we're learning new varieties and we're finding new new things that can grow longer into the season. So essentially our chicory season, we like to focus the start of our season in September, and it goes mainly till December.
The start of harvest season.
Yeah, the start of our harvest season. With a little bit going to restaurants in January and February, and we're expanding that as more varieties come online become available. And I think through a lot of our community with the Sagra and a lot of the seed companies have done a really good job around here of teaching us and showing us all these great new varieties that can be grown into some of the harder, darker months of farming. So it's a really special crop because not only is it beautiful and nutritious, but it serves a great little niche for the winter months where a lot of other produce is really hard to find, and especially for local people. So we're really trying to take advantage of our local environment, our local climate, and getting food to everybody. So I think a main part of why we grow radicchio is just, it's challenging. It's not a very straightforward vegetable to grow. There's a lot of variations. It takes a lot of, I think, farming finesse. A lot of things that we do is completely by hand. We don't machine harvest things. So literally when we go out to the fields, we Gianna, do you want to show kind of our technique? So right now, you want to talk about this variety a little bit?
Yeah, so this is a Treviso variety called Baldo. we got the seed from Osborne Seeds. And it looks like a football kind of
Football shaped.
football shaped, and yeah, so when we go to harvest one, we're looking for something that's nice and dense, and like hard to the touch, for lack of a better word.
This right here. So it's a little tricky. So like kind of we're like looking to find one. So this is a perfect one. So I love growing this because this is like just the harvest, pushing back the leaves, maybe shedding these layers, and I mean just look how beautiful that thing is. Yeah.
Heavy, this one.
So this variety we just started harvesting a couple of weeks ago. So they're all kind of coming on right now. So this is an awesome example of a unique version of radicchio that you might not see in the grocery stores in the United States yet. But it seems like with our markets, we sell a lot to grocery stores, our local co-ops. They have become more and more interested every single year about bringing in more varieties, and different varieties, not just your traditional round Chioggia varieties. So we could go through and show you some of the other varieties that we have.
So in the past, when our first year growing radicchio, it was actually in our first season, and we grew it in the springtime. We were doing a lot of experimenting and trying out farming was new to us in this scale, and we started growing Chioggias early spring. It didn't work out too well.
Yeah.
But we've definitely learned more as we've gone through the seasons, and each year we keep adding new and new varieties.
And this is a new variety for us. This is really beautiful. It has this deep purple vein right here, compared to the other variety that had a really nice vein.
Yeah, it's called Costa Rosa.
Yeah,
Costa Rosa.
Yep, Costa Rosa de Verona.
And
so that's a fun variety. I think, a lot of what we love to do with vegetables and growing has a lot to do with our background and our love for the Italian culture. My grandparents are from Italy, so Italian heritage is a big part of my life. And food for the Italians is the number one thing to bring families together. So for 10 years, I've been a chef. So I've worked in restaurants and really love to come out, grow the food, and then also cook and serve it to people. This is my first year where I'm full-time farming and have not been working in a restaurant, so it's a little bit different. But a big part of what we do is connecting folks to a good food source. So anyway, a lot of what we like has a lot of chefy appeal to it. So this variety is Rosaba, which is becoming a really popular variety. So it's starting just to get the color. This is a pink variety that people are getting really excited about. And it's been we've had a warm fall so far. So the color isn't quite there yet. It needs cold weather to really get a good dark pink color. That is what we're looking for. But this is kind of the cool transformation that radicchio undergoes. It's at this point it looks like a green plant, but in a couple of weeks after a good hard frost, it's going to turn into this beautiful pink radicchio. So that is really special. Here's another really beautiful variety right here. Is Castelfranco variety. That is Fenice, the variety, but that's just, they call this the winter rose. So the center of this will have this really beautiful white blanched heart to it, essentially, with these really gorgeous speckles. and it's not quite as bitter as some of the other Kyojins that you might find, or the common varieties in the grocery stores you find.
Thank you so much for coming to our crib and checking out our radicchios, and see you next time.
Hey, welcome. I'm Brian. We're up in Lyndon, Washington, right up against the border, just south of Vancouver, BC. My partner Christine and I run Uprising Seeds, and this is our home farm. We're out in the chicory field, checking out the radicchios, and we started our farm about 15 years ago, not at this site, but we've transitioned over a couple rented sites, and this is our current spot. We got our start doing fresh market produce, and slowly over the years transitioned to starting to do seed business. We produce the majority of the seeds that we're selling, and now that's pretty much 100% what we do. Aside from little bits of specialty produce here and there. But chicory has been, and radicchio has been kind of a focus of ours from the start. We were growing Trebizos and Castelfrancos 15 years ago, and just have really kind of blown up with the diversity over the years, and now are really excited with our seed work to bring a lot of that to customers that are starting to get excited about it, and small farms, and trying to get that incorporated into seasonal eating in lots of the country. So we can do a quick walkthrough. A lot of what we have here is variety trials. Most of this is not like contracted for eating or going to a CSA or anything. We've got probably about 25 different varieties in the field this year. All the little pink flags you see kind of indicate where one variety ends and the next one begins in the trials. And yeah, let's just kind of walk through the beds. This is a Grimolo mix that we've got going that we direct seeded. And then, so that'll be like a February, March harvest. This next block is Icentina, which is a Grizia type for forcing. This is seed that we produced a couple years ago and are growing out. Next to that is a couple different varieties of Treviso Tardivo. This is one we call Icentina that's just starting to get going, just starting to show some color. Probably like a mid-slotted variety, and you can see this one, that's a TNT variety, Sile Precoce, is a lot further along, and we've actually pulled quite a bit of this already and started forcing it in our forcing room. And then a latest slot Tardivo over here. A lot of what we're growing this year is coming from Andrea at Smarties Bio in Italy, and we're starting a partnership with them where we're going to start distributing some of their seeds, and they're really doing some pretty fantastic breeding work over there, breeding in organic systems and growing organic seed, a lot of the varieties haven't been available organically domestically yet, so it's pretty exciting to be able to offer a lot of really top quality genetics in organic seed. So let's see. So starting here, we'll kind of get into a block of the Smarties trials. This is a row of all the different slots of Verona. So when we're talking about slots, we've got lots of different days to maturity within the type. So they're all Veronas, but there's an early, mid, late, and late slot for them. And maybe we can just take a quick walk down the row and kind of see what that looks like. So this is the earliest slot, that's about 65 days. And these are kind of right in their prime right now. The nice egg shape. Which is just what we're looking for. And then as we're moving down, they kind of get into later maturing varieties that are at different stages of development. So after these little early ones, they start to get a little bigger. And these ones are starting to feel pretty firm. Looking really good. And then kind of an interesting example of the diversity is, so this is another Verona type that came back with the trip that the Northwest growers with the Culinary Breeding Network and Lane did this January. And this is from an Italian grower, Andrea Gubilato. I'm not sure how to say his last name. But you can see these are the same types and just really different looks. This is going to be, I'm guessing, a pretty late maturing, but just really different frame sizes and shapes. This one seems to be a really big framed Verona, so it'll be interesting to see how that fills out in the next couple months. And then this bed of taller stuff is really beautiful Puntarelle, and we're really excited about this. Historically, the seed we've used has been really pretty variable, and we don't have a lot of success getting a really good high pack out rate. We would see maybe 40 to 50% of the plants really produce a saleable head of Puntarelle. And we're just seeing, as you walk down, you can kind of see they're really looking fantastic, really uniform, all heading up nicely. So this is the Smarties Puntarelle, and we're really happy with it. I think it's by far the best one we've tried. And then these are a couple different varieties of pinks. This is a Mantovano, which is a seed we actually produced some of last year, and it's a really variable pink variety. Lots of different shapes, lots of different forms in the population. Kind of a fun one that has lots of potential to steer in different directions. And then on the other side of the flag, we'll have this is the Rosa from Smarties, and you can tell it's a lot more refined, a lot more uniform. And just barely starting to develop its color. Probably if you dig in there, you start to see some pink in the center there. But we generally don't start getting into those for another couple months yet. They're some of the last ones that will be harvesting out of the field. And then this last bed is a similar program as the Veronas, where we've got 3 different slots of Castelfrancos. The first one, obviously smallest frame, is pretty dense and headed up and ready for harvest now. And then the middle one is probably just getting close, and the last one is still a ways out. So from a variety perspective, it's really exciting to see this kind of quality of seed. Just in the last 5 years has really sort of blown up into what we're able to get with TNT and Levantia and Smarties now all represented. It seems like the landscape 15 years ago was pretty rough and ready, variable, stuff that you just didn't get a lot of consistency out of. So it's really nice to see this quality starting to come in. See these really nice golden cores for this. And we're really happy with these. They're looking beautiful. Dirty knife, of course, but and then so a lot of what we're interested in from a production standpoint, and a lot of what we're doing for seed work is with the forcing varieties. We really love the whole idea of forcing and the beauty of the plant architecture you get and the tenderness of the leaves. So we've started experimenting a lot with forcing and sort of focusing our own seed work on the forcing varieties, the Gorizia types, the Tardivo types. We work with Belgian endive. From the field, we're going to go take a walk over to our forcing room where we've got some of our early Treviso going. We can have a look down there. So this is a makeshift forcing room that we're starting to use this year. It's an old root cellar that we inherited with the farmland that we're leasing. So our earliest stuff is going in here, the Treviso and some of the Gorizia, and then after it cools down in the greenhouse, we'll probably move the Treviso out to a lagoon in the greenhouse since it doesn't need the darkness. But since it's totally dark in here, we can do Belgian endive and the Gorizia types. So this is the rad cave. And it's just October 16th right now, so it's really pretty early to be starting forcing. Our temps are still in the 50s during the day, and we haven't even gotten in the 30s at night yet. So it's kind of on the early side, but we are growing an early Tardivo variety. And we're just using kind of a funky setup. We were inspired by a lot of pictures we saw from the Radicchio trip of people just sort of making do with what they had. And usually these are forced in big lagoons with sort of water circulating through it. And we're below grade here, so we don't have access to water. So really these are just sitting in plastic bins with the roots still on them, and there's about an inch or two of water in the bottom of them, and we're just leaving them. We'll probably change out the water a couple times, but they'll live in here a couple weeks while they force. And what's happening is we're basically trying to blanch out the middles, and these ones went in a couple of weeks ago. And that's what we're looking for. It's a little early yet. We'll probably leave most of these in for at least 2 weeks. And over here, they still have some green from the field, but we'll want these totally blanched out, so there's no green in them. These are our Icentina, and they just came in today, and usually those we strip back to just that little core, and then they'll develop into that real beautiful rose form in here. The early ones we find don't develop that real deep red that's real typical of the variety. You generally get that once it gets a little colder and the plants get knocked back a little bit and start forming that rosette in the field. But the early ones get some beautiful salmon tones and pinks. And then there's a bin of Belgian endive here on the bottom that's just been going a little while as well. You can see they're just starting to pop up out of the roots there. And that's another one that we're really excited about growing and have been working with for many years. The first forcing we ever did was Doing some production Belgian endive out of our 600-foot mother-in-law rental in Bellingham for the co-ops here in Bellingham and Skagit. Yeah, dunking some water and looking good. And then, like I said, we'll move the Tardivo. We've got several beds more, and we'll move that out into the greenhouse later in the season, and probably build a lagoon in there with a pond liner. And that'll be once it gets a little colder in there. That'll be how we're doing the rest of that for the year.
Hi, my name is Sam. This is Ralph's greenhouse. Welcome to my radicchio field. I started growing radicchio at Local Roots Farm, where I worked for 4 years with Jason and Siri. And then when I moved to Ralph's greenhouse in 2016, I think, it's been 5 years. This is my 5th season here. I decided I would try growing radicchio because I realized that Local Roots in Western Washington has one of the most perfect climates for growing radicchio, and in particular growing radicchio that's sweet and beautiful. I think the cool summers, relatively cool summers, and cool nights in the fall produces a higher quality radicchio. So when you have a climate that's like built to produce a superior crop, it makes it a good wholesale opportunity. So I started growing it, and since then we've moved from growing about 2 acres to growing 4 acres. In that time, I've kind of had to stumble through learning what works for our markets. We grow for largely distributors, but a little bit of direct to grocery store clients too. And I really wanted to make Treviso the cool new thing, but I think that I should have started with what grocery stores were already doing, which is Chioggia, and then maybe starting to try to push more Treviso. So that's kind of the direction I've gone. I'm growing less Treviso now and more Chioggia and a little bit of Castelfranco, because mainly now it seems like because I want to eat it. So where we're standing right now is this is my latest. This is the whole field. We grew about 3 acres this year. Because of the restaurant's closure, I actually decreased the size of my planting this year because I think a lot of our radicchio, I don't really know, when you're growing wholesale and selling into distributors, you don't often know where all your radicchio is going, but I think a lot of it goes into restaurant and food service accounts, so I got a little scared and was able to decrease my planting size in time. So yeah, we grew about 3 acres, and it's planted, this side is the oldest, or not the oldest, they're all basically planted at the same time. This is the slowest maturing, and if you go that way, it's the fastest maturing, so we're picking down there right now. Right, we're standing in front of a block of Rubro, which is a hybrid variety from Bijou seeds. And I like that one because it's really slow. It's 150 days to maturity, and it's very uniform. It doesn't have a lot of disease pressure, and it stores well. So, yeah, we can move. They're not at all ready. They're in their cute teenage size. They're just starting to head up. But these will probably be ready. Sometimes you can find, in the OP varieties, you can almost always find some that are ready. They don't mature that evenly in my experience. With these ones, we'll almost all be ready at the same time, and we'll basically pick this field in 2 or 3 passes and put it into macro bins and put it into storage and sell it over the course of months, almost like what we do with cabbage. I don't think you find any that are ready. Over there, like you can see, can you tell that basically that's just the Treviso. That's like my last Treviso, so you can kind of see the difference in scale. Like there's just 5 rows there, and then this whole chunk here is a Chioggia variety. And then if we move down this way, talk about how we plant it. So at Ralph's, we do most of our stuff. I end up fitting a lot of things into our leek planting system because that's what we have the tools for. So when we're growing that, we're growing on 24-inch rows because that's what we have transplanters for and cultivators for. I don't want, for my markets, I don't want like a gigantic 2-pound radicchio head. That doesn't work that well, so I'm trying to control their size by planting a little closer. But I've got a lot to learn in that area. So this is all, this whole chunk, this little row. This. I think this looks like powdery mildew, right? I don't think I've seen that in radicchio before. So now we're entering, this is my late Lucia Castelfranco block. I think I have Cecilia and Borneo Tardivo. One is I don't remember which is which. One is a Lucia, late maturing Lucia, and one is a late maturing Castelfranco. But as you can see, even these are OP varieties. They look pretty disease free so far, which is nice. But as you can see, like, they're pretty, like this one maybe is close to ready, and then mostly they're not. So there's like a lot less uniformity in these varieties. So that's okay. It can be an advantage in some ways because it's not all ready at the same time, and so you can sell it slowly. On the other hand, we have to pass through to pick it all more times. Everything seems really early this year. I think we had a really hot September, even early October. So only now are we starting to get more normal weather. Okay, now we're back into Chioggia. This variety is 506. I grow 506 and 4050. I think one issue I had is they almost matured at the same time for me this year. So I have a little bit too much ready all at the same time. And I think 506 is a like intermediate storing variety. It does okay. But 4050 I don't think stores that well. So that's not ideal. Even though like their days to maturity are listed different, I need them to succession better. So I think that's the thing I'm still learning. When I visited TNT in Italy, one thing they said was they were like, oh, you should transplant every 3 to 5 days as you get to the end of the radicchio, like at the end of the periods in which that specific variety wants to grow. And that's just not possible for me because we're getting our plants shipped from nurseries in California. We don't have the capacity to grow this scale of plugs on our farm. So it's been a challenge trying to figure out what slots work best for these like very kind of sensitive varieties. So there's a lot to learn there, but I've definitely had better luck with some of like the Bijou hybrids. To pick, we just bring wagons. You can see these rows open like this, and we come through with a truck or a tractor with a wagon with bins, almost like you can see way over there. Those are wooden ones, but usually we use plastic. And people pick, and they toss them up to people standing on the wagons, and they gently put them into the bin. Sometimes we wash them right away, but often we store them for a couple weeks before we sell them, depending on variety. Castelfranco does not store them. Yeah. Thanks. I'm Sam. Thanks for visiting my radicchio field.
Buongiorno everyone, hello from Mirta. I'm here at Agricola Foradori. We are in the beautiful Dolomites. The nice mountains you see behind me are not the tallest one. They're pretty small compared to the rest of them. And I'm here to show you a little bit of my radicchio production. So first of all, Foradori is a wine estate, and we started since last year to include also vegetable production. We are a biodynamically working wine estate, so including different crops is very important to us. So luckily I have a passion for vegetables, especially radicchio, of course. And so the inclusion of different crops and new ways of production is very replenishing for everyone, to see that the wine can support different projects, because I am a little startup here basically. I have the lucky let's say addition of the wine that brings an income that can sustain my first year and second year investments. And the vegetable production here is pretty small. It's just 1,500 square meters. We're gonna see the field here in Mezzo Lombardo. So we are actually in the Dolomites, north of Verona, about an hour and a half from the Austrian border, just to give you a geographical insight. Latitude is 46, so we're almost like Portland. Portland is, I think, 45.5, and we're at 46 here. And basically, I've been growing radicchio only for 3 years. First year of production was while I was still farming in Quebec at Ferme des Quatre Temps, where I insisted on growing radicchio pretty successfully, even with working with varieties that were not super consistent. Now the market, thanks to all the great folks that are behind Chicory Week and Culinary Breeding Network, the seed market is much, much better. You're gonna get your hands on really, really great seeds from Smarties, from Italy, and Levantia. So here actually I work with a local nursery that makes organic transplants, and I buy from them. Unfortunately, I don't know exactly where they get their radicchio from. And there's some inconsistency, especially in the Mantovano type, so the Rosalba. And I will just walk you through this line of radicchio where I have different types growing, and I transplanted really late this year because I was trying to get into winter to start picking radicchio only in like January, when they really get the nice frost. Okay, here. So as you can see, it's October 21st, and my radicchio Treviso Precoce are really behind here. But I have a different field further south where they are getting on better. Unfortunately, the deer had a party in the radicchio and ate them all. So this is just like a piece that I kept here to see how are they going to develop differently, transplanted in a different space. Here, unfortunately, because of the vineyards and because of these beautiful mountains around me, the sun goes down really early already. So by 3 p.m. I don't have direct sunlight anymore. So Castelfranco friends, here are some fantastically doing Castelfranco. Again, a little behind on closing up. As I said, it's pretty inconsistent seed here. But they are very pretty. So look at this one. We know that Castelfranco has also a hard time to be consistent in terms of being all the same. But we like variety, right? Ta-da! There you go. You can tell this will be a pink Mantovano radicchio because we see already some colors coming up. So okay, this one is really ugly in terms of it's very behind. But you can tell something is going on here that's gonna be pink. But as I said, I think pretty inconsistent seed that he used at the nursery. So I will see, and I'll call him once they are ready, if they're gonna get ready, because again, the mountains are shading up a lot of sun. By 3 p.m. there's no sunlight anymore here, and because I transplanted super late. The vineyards here, so Foradori is 30 hectares of mainly Teraldigo production, and I started to grow, you see in between the vineyards, different kind of vegetables. The best seller and the best growing one is chard. Chinese cabbage does really well. Salads do well. Dino kale, cavolo nero does really well. And radicchio does really well. So this is my very, very pretty radicchio precoce. So This is Trevigiano type, so it's gonna be the long elongated one. They're starting to closing up. The colors are beautiful, still very behind. There's not a lot of heads. They're actually big and already firm. Here you can tell I used landscape fabric. I mainly use landscape fabric between the vineyards because there is enormous weed pressure. As you can see, it's October 21st and the weeds are having a party. So here there's some of them, they're starting to close up. As I said, I'm really worried about not getting to the perfect maturation because the sun goes down. Now it's early in the morning, not early, it's like 10 a.m. but it's gonna go down here behind that mountain at 3 p.m. and soon it's gonna be 2 p.m. So we'll see. Maybe they're just gonna overwinter well and they'll keep growing in February, which is what I really like. That's why I transplanted so late. I'd like to pick them January, starting January. And we're going over here to Lucia. I planted a lot of Lucia, again, pretty late. We'll see what happens. I think this one, if it goes through, if it balls up, if it's gonna get a little bit of nice cold nights, it's gonna be really pretty. But again, it's very behind. So as you can see, I'm still experimenting a lot. I'm hoping next year to do my own plants, to have more consistency, to get the seeds from Smarties Bio, which I'm pretty sure they have a better consistency in germination and also in their variability. I do love variability in chicories, so even if they don't look all the same, I still gonna get them, Andrea. Don't worry if you're listening, Andrea. And basically, one little project I have aside is growing Arch Cape chicory from Ayers Creek Farm. I was lucky enough to work with Anthony and Carol to get some seeds from them that we selected together back in 2016, and I have planted some of them last year. They overwintered pretty well, and I selected a couple of plants from this year's production, and I tried to isolate them as much as I could. While the seeds were ready to harvest, I was giving birth to my little San Pacifico, so I don't have many seeds of them that I could collect shortly later. So hopefully some of those seeds survived, and I hope I have enough. I haven't checked yet, I haven't threshed the plants yet, that I can seed them next year and see if my selection had some success. So I'm really hoping to succeed in my own selection of Arch Cape chicory. It's a late Trevigiano type, and it's heart-shaped and it's forced into the ground, and I think I have a good field for that down in the new fields. So we'll stay tuned on that. That's gonna be for next year. Hopefully you're gonna come visit and can see the Arch Cape chicories yourself in the field next year. And until then, I'll wish you a wonderful chicory week. Stay rad and always bitter.